Say 39.
Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7.
6. 5.
4.
3.
2.
1. It's time for mouthwash. Giddy up. Hi, and welcome to Mouthwash, a minty fresh take on politics. And wow, I think we're going to have a great show tonight, and I think we're going to have some new viewers. So I'm going to go over some of what we do here on Mouthwash, and that is we have live chat on in YouTube and Facebook. If you want to watch it on Twitter, you can't really say anything, so you're sort of in the back seat of this thing, but you can always flip over to Facebook and get into the chat. Sometimes they get some good sidebars going on there. And we try to say this is a right, left, center show. I mean, it's like we want to have all opinions on here. And it's been an interesting week. Mouthwash had been featured in a Democrat commercial against a Republican. So we got a bump there. And then I decided this weekend to get on Twitter and make a comment about the Hamilton East library board. And woo, buddy, it got us into a whole nother rabbit hole. So we're going to talk about that Hamilton County East library board tonight. We have some Lucy's our only regular panel guest on tonight. And we're going to talk about manners on social media because, woo, boy, I felt like I was going to get tarred and feathered. Glad they didn't know where I lived. They'd have brought pitchforks over. But we're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to talk about some cool stuff. Remember, keep it classy. We don't want to be like social media. And we have return of the peeps on the streets. Small talk as always. And maybe if you stick around to the end, you'll see a forensic foreplay commercial coming up for a show this Friday that affects some folks right here in Indiana, up in Anderson. And that, if you like true crime, you might want to watch that. But hey, let's get to this. Let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and play that commercial for our show on forensic foreplay. And then we will have Brad on the other side. We'll get to know him a little bit. And then we'll bring on the panel and introduce our people that are on there tonight. So it looks like everybody's backstage. Lucy might be in her car, and we all know what happens then. So hopefully she's close to her house. But let's go ahead and watch this little commercial, and Brad will be on the other side. So you can catch that show Friday night at 9 p.m. You will get a kick out of Dee Dee. If I can keep her from dropping F-bombs on the show, it's a winner. So she's definitely a true crimer, gets heavily involved in some of these cases. And hey, you might be able to find the guy. He might be hiding in your mini barn in your backyard. But Mr. Brad Sawinski, it's great to have you on the Mouthwash Show. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do, and maybe what the heck are you doing on the Mouthwash Show tonight?
Thanks, John, for having me. My name's Brad Sawinski. I live in Alexandria. I'm the youth services manager at the Alexandria Monroe Public Library. I've been there for over 5 years. during that time, I've also been the chairperson of the ILF Youth Division Conference. I'm originally from Northwest Indiana, up in Griffith. Attended Ball State University, graduated with a degree in secondary education with a minor in sociology. And I've been involved in the fight for intellectual freedom basically since I started at the library. We have Banned Books Week every year in September. But what actually really pushed me into it was one of my friends on Facebook shared the video of the July 21 Carmel Clay School Board meeting where the parents from the Unified Carmel showed up and expressed concerns about the books in the schools and tried to freak everybody out. And my friend posted that, we need to check our libraries for this, and I'm 100% against it. And so I responded to her and just said, please, if you have any questions about the library, just come and ask me, come talk to me. Alexandria is a really small town. I love the town. I love the library that I work at. It's a great little town, and it is actually pretty conservative. So I am somewhat in the minority here too, in town, but we all get along really well. It's, the library should be for everybody. We're all about the kids. We're all about, people checking out books. So, and the reason I'm on Mouthwash is because I get to ask questions. So
you ask questions, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were one of the, usually our guests just pop on and we just go at it. But, Jocelyn and yourself both came on and we did a pre-interview, and I found you quite lovely, both of you. So if this thing goes, if this blows up tonight, I think I know whose fault it's going to be, somebody else's. But Alexandria, that is where our forensic foreplay person is on the land from up there. I don't know what y'all have got in the water up there, but it's like it's something else. But that's a whole different show. So let's do this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to play Mark's Small Talk. And I'm sure he's going to probably say a few things you might agree with, Brad. Maybe not. I mean, he usually has some out of the box thinking. And I have not listened to it because he just sent it to me and I just edited it. So if he says cuss words or whatever, I'm pleading the fifth on it. So let's go ahead and listen to this. Then you're going to be on the hot seat, Brad. And then we're going to have this panel out here. And then the questions are going to start happening. You're going to have to answer some, but you can always ask some. So let's go ahead and watch this small talk, and we'll see the panel on the other side.
Hi, I'm Mark Small. This is Small Talk. A national issue has taken on local implications here in central Indiana the last couple of months. That national issue is, can we have civil discourse or discussion of issues? And it's local because there's a library board, the trustees of which last couple of months have taken a far right turn with a 4-3 majority. Now, one of those people in that majority is Reverend Michael Beckwith. He's a preacher in Hamilton County, and we have to look at what the elements of civil discourse are. For one thing, people have to be able to speak uninterrupted, and ideally other people are listening. Another element is hopefully you won't have people arrested at meetings. It's what they've done lately at that library, and you have to have issues based in reality. So Beckwith, on the one hand, has told an interviewer that we're just wanting to have the staff pull books and examine them, make sure they're okay. And to a member of the Fishers City Council, he said, you are opposing me on pornography. You want to put smut in these children's hands. Another member of the Board of Trustees said, well, it shouldn't cost anything. Prior review for children's books didn't cost an additional cent. I was on university library staff for about 6 years. Those things cost money. It's unrealistic to think you're going to take all these books off the shelves, and they have, and it's not going to cost anything at all. And what's the problem? They really have a problem with graphic novels like Watchmen and Mouse, which is fantastic. It's about the Holocaust, though, and they think that anything that has murder or riots or crime or anything like that shouldn't be in the hands of kids. On the other hand, I'm sure Beckwith isn't going to seek to have this book banned or put into a restricted section. Here's the bad part. Beckwith talks to God, and God talks to Beckwith about political issues. And he said that for God told me, I sent those riots to Washington. And that's scary. Either he really believes God is talking to him, that's delusional, or worse, he knows he isn't. And as a consequence, other people might believe that he is. And that's tough to oppose somebody who says that God's on their side. Bob Dylan wrote about that. Anyways, kids don't get books in the library. They might have to go to the internet. and we know there's no porn there. Mark Small, Small Talk. Peace.
Oh, Marcos wound up tonight. And just to give you a little background, they ran together in the 5th district, and I think you got 3rd and he got 8th.
Oh, he got a lot. He got a lot worse than that. He got blown out of the water. I think he got about 15th. So
yep. So
he's a Democrat trying to run a Republican primary, so he didn't do too well.
Yeah, but he always brings it, and we like to have everybody's opinion on here. So don't make too much fun of him, okay? We do that. So I'm going to bring Brad out here because he is our man of the moment, and he's been kind enough to come on and talk about the library board because he's in the library, and then I usually go down here and we put there. That worked. That's amazing how that works. And we're going to talk about social media manners as well. So we're going to talk about the library board at first, and then we're going to do peeps on the streets. And then we're going to come on and talk about the manners. So let's go ahead and I'm going to let's let the ladies go first. So Jocelyn, would you go ahead? I'm going to go ahead and put you out here for a second so we can get to know you, since you're one of our panelists tonight. You've been fortunate. You've been gracious enough to come on as our Democrat on the panel. We've had a struggle with that as far as getting a Democrat. So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and what the heck are you doing on Mouthwash?
Sure, thanks. First of all, John, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. And if I may, I'm going to start right off with first, before I introduce myself, a question for our panel. If I may, who here does not want porn in the hands of children? I do not want porn in the hands of children. And if you do not, we are agreed. So any accusations now are a purposeful lie.
Well, and that's the end of the show. We've got it solved. It's over. Hang it up.
I would love to introduce myself. My name is Jocelyn Vare. I serve as an at-large member of the Fishers City Council. I am the first Democrat elected by the city of Fishers. And about Fishers, we have grown tremendously. We are now the 6th largest city in Indiana. And frankly, it used to be a GOP stronghold. But in the recent May primary, 47% of Fishers citizens voted Democrat, 47% Democrat, 53% Republican. That's a healthy political balance here in our community. And that's why Fishers' frustration over the Hamilton East Public Library Board right now is bipartisan frustration. We are smart people in Fishers. We know that parents get to decide what's appropriate for our children to read, not the library board. We know that $300,000 from taxpayers is being wasted on relocating thousands of books, teen books, to the adult section, moved for inappropriate content. And we know that reshelving these books into the adult section is where there is true adult content. It's nonsense. We know that the library board is playing selfish political games and not serving the public. And we know lies when we hear them, because we know what is porn and what is not porn. This is not porn. This has not been about listening to the public, and it should have been. And this is ugly politics. So let's clean it up. Let's stop it and get Fishers back on the right track. Thanks.
All right. And it sounds like you're on the Mouthwash show to voice that opinion. So that's very good. To be fair, before we get Brad out there, I'm going to give Micah he's been on our show before, but I'm going to give him, you got Yahweh on your hat. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one of my hats. Yeah. Yahweh.
Yeah, I just wanted to show everybody that I'm sort of a biblical scholar in some senses. In some circles, I am that. But Micah, how you doing? You've been on the show a couple times, and we thank you for coming on. You are the target tonight. I mean, you are on the panel about this Hamilton East County Library Board. So go ahead and tell our viewers, maybe they don't know who you are and what you're up to, and what the heck are you doing on the Mouthwash show?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, John. So I've been on Mouthwash many times. Love coming on and just having political conversations and debates. And, scripture says iron sharpens iron. So, and truth will win. You don't have to defend the truth. The truth is like a lion, just set it free and it will defend itself. And so on the Hamilton East Public Library Board, there's been a lot of misinformation in the media, things like banning books. Like, we've not banned one book. All we've done is said, hey, if there's inappropriate content, let's find it. and then let's shelve it in an adult section so that mom and dad can still get the book, and actually kids can even get the book too. And kids go into the adult section all the time. This idea that kids won't go into the adult section is ludicrous. I mean, they're wandering the library all the time, and mom and dad should always be with the kids, absolutely. But we know that if you've got kids, it's hard to keep an eye on them all the time. And so in the kids and teen sections, you would hope that mom and dad could feel safe that, hey, their kid's not going to pick up something that's going to be graphic, explicit. I mean, we've literally had books that are pornographic, and I'm glad to hear Jocelyn say that she's against porn in the hands of kids. But then why is she fighting us on this policy that would just say, hey, if there's pornographic, explicit content, let's just put it in the adult section. Mom and dad can still get it. It's not saying it's not there. It's just saying that for parents who don't want their kids to stumble across that in the children's section or teen section, it gives them a sense of safety. It gives them a sense of acceptance as well. And for her to say that, overwhelmingly people are against what we're doing, that's not true. I get emails and I get calls. I get many people who are saying, thanks for what you're doing. And I've had my kid has stumbled on a book that was completely inappropriate. And I didn't appreciate that. And I want to feel safe when I go through the kids section. So all we're doing is saying, hey, let's find the content and move that content. And it's not moving thousands and thousands and thousands of books. It's saying find the content that shouldn't be in the kids section and just put it in the adult section. It's simple policy. It's common sense. It's not rocket science. It's just keeping our community safe, and so everyone can feel accepted. So, because I guess I would ask, to the Jocelyn's and the Brads of the world, what do you do when you have a parent that says, hey, my kid picked up a book and it's got explicit content in the kids section and I don't feel safe here? I mean, do you just throw their concerns, out the window and say, well, too bad, suck it up. We're not going to move, or are you going to try to, make a safe place for them too? So at the end of the day, it's about listening to everybody, and we do. And we just say, I mean, we have, again, not one book has been banned. And if you can show a book that's been banned, I will fight to reinstate it, because I'm against book bans just as much as anybody else on this panel is. So, but shelving books appropriately is important, and it's common sense.
All right. Well, yeah, I think this is good. This was a good start. We got it going here. Let's bring Brad out, and he's going to be sort of our mediator. Oh, and I do see Lucy on here. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. And she's in the car, so I'll put her right down here, and she will always have a good question for someone, and she's in the shadow. So I don't know how long it's going to take her to get home or whatever, but she will have a question. It'll be like God asking a question, right, Micah? We'll just out of the sky, we'll have a question, and you
don't tell Mark Small that. Don't tell Mark Small. He'll flip a lid. He's like God's talking.
Your imaginary friend that you talk to. It's all good. So we're going to start with. I'm going to let Brad ask a question. I'm going to let Brad ask a question because we just let you guys, talk about some things. So, Brad, what question might you have for either Jocelyn or Micah or Lucy or me even? I don't know what I can do, but.
Well, I wanted to kind of address the issues of improper definitions of words such as pornography, or yeah, like, I mean, when you guys say you're not banning books, you're censoring materials. It's you may not be removing it, you are making it more difficult to access. So that's kind of the issue that I think most people have with that. Also, just I've been called a Marxist too. So if you guys could explain to me what that means. I didn't know I was one until I got told. Basically because I believe that everybody should have the intellectual freedom to read what they want. I don't know why that is an issue.
Okay, well, so who wants to answer what a Marxist is? Because I don't know what one is. I thought it was a person that liked somebody named Mark.
Well, I mean, I'll take a step back. I don't know. I don't know why you think censorship is happening. I would ask you, because again, you can still get the book. And are you saying that anything should be allowed in the children's and teen section? Like, if you don't want any, okay, so you shook your head no. So I guess I would throw it back to you and say, what standards should we put in place? And are standards a form of censorship is my question.
No, I believe, when you try to reach a target audience for books, the kids section does have books on many topics. They're not all ones that I would read or want for my kid to read, but there are people in my community that would read them. So if a library is for the entire community, they should have access to all of those books.
And I would argue that they do, don't they? I mean, you can still get the book from the library, correct?
I suppose, yes.
The policy that was in place before this sweeping net had been cast over the teen section of books, it was a policy that listened to patrons. And if they had a concern with a book, we had a very specific process at the Hamilton East Public Library. And things were adjusted. They were considered and adjusted book by book. You cannot deny that moving 1,300 teen books into the adult section, and that is a review of only a quarter of the entire teen collection, you cannot convince any of us that thousands of books are inappropriate in the teen section. Something is wrong with the policy if it is decimating the teen section. The teen section exists to bridge between the kids section and the adult section. Taking these books and moving them to the adult section is nonsense. That is where adult content is. And we are literally, with this policy, driving teen readers to the adult section.
So
I'd like to go ahead and weigh in.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lucy.
Yeah, let's let Lucy come in here. She's finally got it situated. As I reminded our viewers, Lucy, you have 10 kids, and some days those kids need attention, right?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? I'm in a little bit of a bad spot driving, but arguably I probably paid more property taxes that have ended up in the library at Fishers because of the number of rental houses that I owned for decades in Fishers. I am a mom of 10 children. And I think one of the most important things that we have as a duty as adults is to protect children. One of the main things that we can do to protect children is protect their eyes and to protect their ears from what is quite frankly smut. You know, just like you say pornography, you'll know it when you see it. That's kind of like the Supreme Court litmus test. The fact of the matter is society and our community does not benefit by making smut easily accessible to teenagers. I would like to see, there is no transition from childhood to adulthood that has a step or requirement for pornography. There just simply isn't. There's no good immoral things into the hands of children. I don't think it goes far enough, quite frankly, to just simply move things from one part of the library.
Well, again, we're not talking about pornography, but
well, we don't know what we're talking about because you and I have not read every single one of those.
But I do know the definition of pornography.
What is being suggested as children?
We do know the
Well, we all know what the definition of pornography is. Yes, you know it when you see it. That's what the Supreme Court said.
No, actually, we have a dictionary, and that says pornography is material that depicts erotic behavior and is intended to cause sexual excitement.
That is certainly true of many of the books that I read as a teenage girl. And looking back on it, my life was not enhanced by reading that smut. There are many
and that is up to you. And our parents.
No, actually, it should have been up to my parents, but because the Fishers Library, as an example, is simply moving them from one section to another, and it's still accessible to minors and still accessible to children, my parents couldn't keep me from that. And so we have a duty as community members to protect the vulnerable in our society. We protect the vulnerable in many different ways, and this is just one of the ways in which I don't think the Fishers Library is going far enough, quite frankly.
I hear you. I just want to add the responsibility of protecting children lies with their parents and law enforcement.
Sorry, Eden didn't want me to leave.
So
law enforcement and it's not a public library board. That is not the responsibility of a public library board.
Can I ask a question? Does the public zoo go by those same standards that mom and dad are responsible to take the safety of the kids into their hands, and they don't really shore up the gorilla exhibit? And it's like, well, there's a fence there, but a kid might be able to fall through it. But, you know, if a kid falls through it, that's mom and dad's responsibility. You know,
Micah, books cannot maul people.
A book on a shelf is not a gorilla.
Okay, so you want to make the argument that books can't be dangerous. Is that what you're saying?
A book on a shelf is not dangerous, sir.
Well, then how did Mein Kampf kill 6 million Jews in the Holocaust? How did a wicked idea from a wicked man written down in a book destroy millions of people? It wasn't a bullet, it wasn't a gun, it was an idea written down by a man who had wicked thoughts. So you're going to sit here and say that books and ideas can't be dangerous? Is that what you want to defend that there?
I will tell you that the public library is paid for by taxpayer dollars. It serves the public. The purpose of a public library is to make ideas, even ones that you don't agree with, accessible to all. And that is the responsibility of the Public Library Board. And that's where you're failing.
No, it's not where we're failing, because we're making books accessible to all. We're just saying there's an appropriate place for children to be, and there's appropriate books to go into that section. We just want to make sure that books that are inappropriate aren't falling through the cracks and going into that section. Because God forbid there is an inappropriate book that does fall into that section and we don't find it soon enough. And then how many kids see these images? That's exactly what led to this policy, Jocelyn. The book that I bring up often, and you know what book I'm going to talk about, it's Let's Talk About It. And it was written by a self-described pervert, Erica Moen, and that book was in the teen section for 14-year-olds.
And it was moved according to the earlier policy before you joined the board. Brad, is there more adult content in the adult section or the teen section?
It was in.
I got to go with adult section.
It was in the teen section. For how many kids, how many teens stumbled across that book before we found it? That's the question. Do you know? I don't know. That's a great question.
Why are we talking about a book that has already been
Because
moved?
also, please keep in mind, it wasn't moved. Please keep in mind, it wasn't moved because of the content. It wasn't moved because of the content. It was moved on a technicality because we didn't have a policy. We didn't have a policy in place.
Let's talk about the Judy Blume book that was moved to the adult section.
How is that pornography?
How is that pornography or dangerous?
I'm not saying that book is dangerous or pornographic. What I'm saying is,
moved?
That's the policy of the
policy, Mike.
That's the policy of the library director who put that in action.
Judy
So
Blume
we're saying
Blume Forever has been on the teen shelf for decades.
That's fine. Okay, then if we moved a book accidentally, we'll get it back in the teen section. We're not saying move every book. We're saying put a standard in place so that it doesn't fall in through the cracks. We're just saying.
All right, I'm going to jump in here real quick because I think we're sort of at this. You know, one of the things I'm seeing here as a person that has grown kids that they probably drive by the library anymore. They don't go in. I think one of the things that I see here is that, you know, this is not really becoming as much about the books as it is about the right to access certain books. And then I think that some people say that if we were to allow kids to see any book they wanted, we are condoning that type of behavior. It's okay to do that. And I could see other people say, you know what, you're a kid, it's not okay. I think that's where a lot of the impasse is. Would somebody agree with that? Or are we just strictly talking about books here?
But no, I agree with you, John. But the answer is, and Brad, chime in, the answer is allow the parent or the guardian to decide what's inappropriate or appropriate. Charlotte's Web was inappropriate for my child shortly after their grandparent died, right? That was inappropriate. That's up to me to decide. So that is what my community is very concerned about. And then not being allowed to have public comment and their voice heard. It's this is not how a public library board should function. Brad, I'm sure your library board is much more.
No, we've had library board issues in the past. However, and every time it came up, it would be in the newspaper and it would be questions for the staff. And so I do want to address that in the fact that every time this kind of thing happens, the staff at Hamilton East has to deal with all these questions, all of this stuff. And it is pretty unfair to them because I don't think that they were, consulted on any of that.
They just are told what to do. Okay, so I think we've gotten both sides of this out fairly well here, and I'm going to play mediator right now. So and it seems like, as we're getting ready to segue into the manners on social media, that this is a really hot topic, and there's a lot of people that are hair is on fire and we got problems and people need to be fired and whatnot. I want to hear from each one of you. We'll start with Brad on this. What solutions can we have here to get people back together? And then we'll go to Brad, Micah, then we'll do Jocelyn.
We have to depoliticize library boards and school boards. It's about the community. It's about representing everyone, not just the people that you agree with. And so, the idea that somebody is wrong, somebody is right, that's not really the case when it comes to libraries. It should be, there's something for everybody, but there's also going to be something, there's a saying, there's something in a library that's going to offend everybody, or, at some point. It doesn't, whether it's in the kids section, adult section, that's what you're going to get upset in a library. It has all the knowledge.
I can't wait to go. I mean, I'm telling you, but I'm going to ask you a little follow-up here. School boards are supposed to be bipartisan, but if you go to every school board member's meeting and look at a website or Facebook or whatever, you will see exactly what party they are with. And so that's a noble idea to say it should be nonpartisan, but I just don't see how we're going to get that done. Maybe Alexandria and pictures are different.
When you have HSC school board members like the Democrat on the board the other day saying, hey, buy a sticker supporting teachers at HSC, and then they go to buy the sticker and it goes to Act Blue, the Democrat fundraising apparatus in the nation, people say, oh, well, I guess maybe we are politicized a little bit. But it's not conservatives that started the politicization. We just woke up one day. We saw it. Like 2020 was the silver lining in 2020 was we got to look inside what was going on in some of these classrooms around our nation. And we realized, wow, they've really politicized our schools and they're weaponizing knowledge against the traditional values that we once held dear. And so it's not, I don't want it to be politicized either, but we're just answering the fight. We're not starting this fight. And again, I don't see what the problem is when it comes to the library, just making sure that there's a policy in place that keeps inappropriate, explicit content out of that section. I mean, that's all we're saying is like, let's figure it out. And I'm not saying that we're perfect and we get it right. We can work on this policy. Again, this is not you have to do it this way all the time. If you have good ideas on how to do that, we'll listen and we're open to that. But what we're saying is we've got to have some sort of policy that would keep these things from hitting the shelf. And it can't be just parents bringing it to our attention because you don't know how long that book has been there, how many kids have seen it, how much damage has been done with a book that maybe we'd all agree that shouldn't be there, like a book like Let's Talk About It that I think Jocelyn has even said shouldn't have been there. But it was there. That's the point. It got there. How did it get there? We can't let it get there and then it comes to our attention. We have to be proactive, not retroactive.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a follow-up question because I've heard some complaints about the cost of all of this work and the extra work that's been on the library. How would you answer that? Because I'm going to say my opinion here. I usually don't get to. I think that's a little extreme. I think that part. I think something needs to be balanced here.
Well, I'm not saying that we don't do it the most fiscally conservative way possible, but the protection of our children has got to be paramount in any public facility, any school, any library. We've got to take care of the safety of the people coming into this place. And if it means spending money to do that, then we'll do it. And we've managed money well. The status of our finances at the library are very good right now. We've got the money to do it. So let's do it. It's I mean, how much is too much when it comes to keeping our children safe? I think we've heard that in our schools. I mean, everyone's saying, hey, we need to make sure that we shore up the safety of our schools. Well, why isn't it any different when it comes to the public library? So let's do it as conservatively as possible, but we're going to need to spend money on it. And again, this is not something we're saying it has to be $300,000. If we can do it cheaper than that, great. I'm all ears. But
yep. Okay. Jocelyn, before you go, I like to put out questions from our chat here, and Jesse Brown, he's actually running for District 13 councilman here in Indianapolis. How many tax dollars is the right amount to protect one child from reading one book? And that's almost like the if I want to take a page out of your book there, Micah, the one out of the 99 sheep, right? Type of deal.
Yeah.
Or how much is that?
How much is it? I mean, again, the way Jesse phrased that question is a little biased there. Just reading one book. Well, what if the book is let's talk about it? Like, what if it's that book? Again, I use that example because it's an extreme example. I've got excerpts I can show you right now. I think you'd probably get taken down from streaming if I did. So I don't want to do that, John. But how much like is that? If we're talking about that book, we need to spend the money to keep that book in the adult section where it belongs. But
yeah, it sounds like to me, and Jocelyn, I'm gonna let you go. Sounds like to me we're working through this process, and hopefully that folks will calm down a little bit, and we're having a pretty decent dialogue tonight here, and maybe there could be some common ground for this. And like I said, we're getting ready to go into the Twitter. So Jocelyn, I'm going to give you a chance, and I'm going to bring Lucy back on. I think she's ready to have some stuff, but she's nodding backstage. So. And I'm going to let her ask one question. Then we're going to segue over to the manners on social media.
I'm sorry, John, but can I answer the first question?
You can answer whatever you want. It's your time.
And thank you. I mean, just a couple things. The public has stepped forward for months suggesting alternatives to this faulty, dysfunctional policy. And there has been some really good suggestions, including having a separate section in the teen zone for some of this content that's a little bit more mature. And that seems pretty reasonable to me. The question was asked. So the answer, the solution is listening to the public, who the public library is supposed to serve. That's number one. About tax dollars. It is the public's tax dollars that funds our public library to do one thing, and that is to open their doors and make material accessible. There is this fallacy of the public library board's job is to protect children and keep them safe from harm. That is not the job of a public library. That is the job for law enforcement. That is the job for crossing guards. That is not the job of the public library. So the dollars should be used very responsibly. And every time public dollars are used for something the public does not want, we have a disconnect. And it's up to the public library board to fix this and listen to the public and make adjustments.
So what I'm hearing is we got to staff the library with a bunch of police officers.
I didn't hear that.
Beckwith, that's not what I said. He's poking the bear on that. So I'm gonna bring Lucy on. I would love to. I know that there's more questions here and more comments on that, and that's great. But I want to bring Lucy on for a question here, since she's so diligently tried to get on. Look at that. You've got your stuff together, Lucy. So let's go ahead. You've been listening. So sum it all up and either ask a question or something in that nature.
I have two parts. The first part is, if we want to talk about tax dollars, we need to talk about eliminating them entirely, because I shouldn't have to pay for marks, and you shouldn't have to pay for the stuff that I read. It is theft, and it is transfer of wealth for you to take from me and my tax dollars to fund the library at all. But that being said, my question is for Brad and Jocelyn. I'm really curious. I have children that are down to 10 and grandkids that are down to 3 and 4 years old. Why is it so important to you that my child have access to things that I consider smut and that we use tax dollars to do it? Why are you trying to groom my children by making sure that things are accessible to them? The red herring of, we'll just put it in the teen section in a different area. If the location is in the library, it's still going to be accessible to the kids. So don't try and act like you're trying to do somebody a favor or you're open-minded by saying we're going to have a separate section that's in the teen. As a parent, when my child goes into the teen section, I need to feel confident that my child is not going to step on a landmine that is literally going to groom them or scar them.
Wow. Well, kumbaya moment is over. So Jocelyn, go ahead.
Well, a book is not a landmine.
Yeah. Jocelyn,
I would say
don't even start. My goodness, there are books that are literally in the library right now that if a smaller child comes across it, it can change their mind and groom them into something that they didn't intend to be. And that could be a Marxist as far as I'm concerned. We don't even need to talk about pornography. We can talk about the fact that these books that are in the library are literally anti-American, immoral, anti-God. The mere fact that you would say that is just really reveals who you are. You try and act like you're like a soft Democrat, or maybe you're a friendly Democrat like Casper the Ghost is. The fact of the matter is you are the nose under the camel's tent, and I'm shutting the tent down.
I don't know.
All right. Calm down. Everybody remain calm. Brad, go ahead. I'm going to let you. And then we'll go.
Can we all just get along? Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Lucy,
when my children are in your crosshairs, no, we don't get along. I take my children and my responsibility to make my children safe, and that is psychologically as well. That's why I look at what are they on the internet, who are they talking to. My daughter is buying a house right now. One of the first things that I do is I look at the houses she's looking at and I go check the sexual predator list. I want to make sure that my children are safe from people that think that there is something valuable. If there's something valuable to you about my child having access to age inappropriate material that is leading them down a sexual path, I have a problem with you because you have an unseen agenda. And I'm going to expose your agenda for what it is, and that's grooming.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. That's some the shots fired. Shots fired. Brad, go ahead, and then Jocelyn, and then Lucy. Let them talk.
Other people might not think that what that book is smut, and they are also a taxpayer. So, like, one taxpayer does not, get to rule everything for all of them. That's the same reason that we say let the parents parent the child. They can be with the child and check items out. We are not, absentee. Like, we're not there to replace the parents. We are there to work with parents. Honestly, like, when I have parents come into the library, I've had parents ask me, my kid's 12 or 13. They're in the YA section. What are some recommendations for them? That is proactive parenting. Just because your kid finds a book, you still have the opportunity to parent. You can tell them that is wrong. Our values are this. This book says that. Don't check anything else like that out again. And that is you parenting. We're not saying that you can't, but we're saying that just because you find it offensive does not mean that everyone does.
But why don't the compromise then is just to take that book that might be offensive to a Lucy or to a Micah and say, let's put it in the adult section. That's all we're saying. So that way we all know when my kids walk through the kids section, I can feel that they're going to be safe, just like you would want your kids to feel like they're going to be safe, just like every taxpayer has the right to feel like their kids are going to be safe. Why do I have to compromise my safety?
Lucy and Micah don't have the right to make that decision for my child.
You don't have the right to make that decision for my children by making it
acceptable. And one of the things before, because I can see where this is going.
Dollars
one of the things that I would say to support this is a kid cannot unsee something.
Thank you.
A kid can always see it. And if my thing is, like, we need to protect our kids. This world is bad enough as it is, and it comes on them as fast as it does. So if we're going to err on the side of caution, to me, that would seem better. And if it does take a little bit more time, or somebody has to go to a different section to find this, I would say that. And I'm so old that I remember when we'd go to the library and look at the National Geographic to look at the naked jungle women. I mean, and once we saw that, we would tell our friends and they'd tell their friends, and everybody was checking that thing out. So I know how kids operate. And I know there was a book going around Carmel Library that kids were checking out that if their parents found out, they would probably be in trouble. Some of them not. So I guess the big question in the room is, how do we not infringe on someone's rights, but protect someone's rights that they don't want their kid to see a certain thing? And it's just a very, very tough question. So I'm going to leave it at this. I'm not letting anybody more talk about this, because we beat this horse a little bit. We got to talk about manners on social media. I think that'll be just as much fun. And I think we might agree a little bit more on how that works. So I'm going to play Peeps on the Streets. And we're going to take a breath, get some to drink, and then, enjoy this. And then we'll come back on there. And I'm going to take you off of the hot seat, Brad, and put you in the regular. We'll put a regular Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares. That's what we'll do here. Hollywood Squares type of thing. So enjoy Peeps on the Streets. I worked very hard on this. It took me all of 20 minutes. So let's go. Hi, this is John Schmitz for the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. And I'm down here doing the Peeps on the Streets at the Spark down here on the Circle, where they closed down the Circle for it to be more safe. And it is sort of cool. It's pretty relaxing. So I'm going to ask the Peeps on the Street what they think about social media and how kind or not kind it is. All right, out of the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, which one of you do you think is the most brutal or the meanest of those platforms?
Twitter.
Twitter. Now, why would that be?
I just feel like a lot of people tweet about things and they just say whatever's on their mind because they think no one's ever going to see it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Out of the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, which do you think is the meanest or the most brutal platform?
Twitter. I think so. Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Just I don't use the social platforms too much myself in my posting, but just from what I see and the discourse that happens on there, just my observations.
So out of the social media, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, which one do you think of those as the most brutal? Which one of those you think has the meanest people on it?
Definitely Instagram.
Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah.
So why Instagram?
Because of the shade room.
Oh, okay. They just shame you on there, huh? If you're not just exactly right.
Exactly.
All right. Out of the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, which one of those do you think may be the meanest or the most brutal out of those three?
You said Facebook, Twitter, and
Instagram.
Definitely Twitter.
Twitter, yeah. Why would you say that about Twitter?
It just is.
All right, that's a wrap for Peeps on the Streets from downtown Indianapolis. All right. So, look, we did it pretty good here. Sometimes we come out of that, and it's. Let me try this real quick. Let's see if that scares everybody. Oh, that's even better. I like that even better. Wow, it's amazing technology what you can do. So I know that we sort of ended that on there, and I don't think we solved a whole lot of problems on it, but we did discuss it. So I feel good about that. And so, now the next portion of that, and did that skip out a little bit, or did it go all the way through? Okay, good, because it skipped on my side. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But so what do you think about Peeps on the Streets, Brad?
I was amazed that somebody thought Instagram was the worst. That's
She
like the
was
one I
on
go to
Twitter,
when I
that's
want to see
what
like nice pictures.
She'd never heard of Twitter, so they're all bad, I guess, in their own way. So Micah, what did you think about the Peeps on the Streets? It's one guy was from Australia. He was in town for Gen Con. He had an accent then.
Yeah, no, I thought it was probably what I thought they would say. I mean, social media can be a really hard place to be sometimes. I mean, you take a lot of criticism, no matter who you are, and you got to be able to kind of put it aside and take a breather and go into the real world, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter if your friends or enemies are coming at you or whatever. You got to be able to put that down and take a breather, or else it can really, it can mess people up. I've seen it, impact people negatively. I would say it's dangerous. Okay. But know how to use it, right? Like know how to walk that line of using it effectively, but not getting caught in its trap.
So Jocelyn, what do you think about that? I mean, I look at all these platforms as a highlight reel. You never see what's really going on with somebody. You have the best angle and all that, and you can select.
Well, I don't know about that, but I am used to be a candidate, and now I'm an elected official. I like social media because it allows me to connect with people in my community, and it allows me to hear from them, and they ask me questions. And it's very obvious for me. I just need to share. My policy has always been everything is wide open. I don't block people. I don't require a follow in order to comment on my pages. I use it as a communication tool, and it's very open. I can count on one hand how many people I've blocked. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean I respond to every question, especially ones that don't seem like they're well-intended, or like in good faith, trying to initiate a conversation or gather info. But I am really grateful for social media allows me to connect.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, because when I was on there, I was actually trying to bait some people into probably some things, and I want to apologize to those folks because I was gathering my research, and I got blocked by a couple people, and it's like, oh, okay, and some of them were like right out of the gate, you're gone, and other people were like, they put up with a lot, and honestly, I got badgered by some people. They just kept on me. It's like, okay, I answered your question. You obviously don't want to hear it, and they just want to get you. Lucy, is that a sort of one of the things that you've run into on there? I know that you're limited on it. You do some Twitter and some other things, but what do you think?
Well, my favorite place to spend my time is actually Facebook. Instagram is too crafted. As you said, it's a highlight reel. Twitter, especially now that it's X and it's a half Masonic symbol, the compass and the square, I think it just really shows the intentions of Elon Musk and what he's doing with the Everything app. Let's not forget, even back in 1999 and 2000, he was talking about X.com. Elon is really not our friend. For all of those of you who are conservative, who somehow think that Elon has a rags to riches, some sort of hero story, he's not. But, speaking, to what Jocelyn said, I've been a candidate multiple times. Social media is an amazing way, as she said, to connect with people, to give them the chance to engage with you. And then, as is in the case recently, sometimes even our reels here on Mouthwash are turned around and used on social media by the Democrats against the Republican. I loved that irony. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that is great. Somebody's got some feedback. I don't know who it is, but I've had a couple people in the comments say something. So if you're not talking, Mike, you're new, do your mic. It might be Lucy. Are we good now? Somebody in the chat, tell me that. Yeah, I think that might have been it. Lucy, you might be having some feedback on there. So, and you're
I've hit my mic and I'm still hearing the feedback even with my mic off.
Okay. And Micah, are you, or is it you, or I don't know. Anyway, how's that? Can you still hear feedback? It's that darn Republican. It is. That's there's always some feedback with a Republican in there. So I'm going to ask Mike a question. Yeah, I'm giving you a hard time, Mike. I got my blue shirt on. I'm trying to be nice to our guests here, and and be give you a hard time some. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job of it. But there is somebody on that sent me a message about a Twitter thing here, or a comment. Her name's Michelle Fullhart, and apparently I think that she said that there was some exchange on. I see you smiling already. And this one, I started reading some of it, and I think Adam, producer, is going to put the link in the chat. I sent it to him, so hopefully he'll put it in there. And it just seemed like, to me, it was almost like listening to some kids in the 8th grade locker room making fun of each other, trying to, get things. But it got fairly hurtful to some people. And I just was wondering, and the question is, it's going to be a little painful. The question is, as a pastor and a community leader, sometimes the name calling, is that something that you may regret, or you would fill me in on that? I'm putting you on the spot here, brother.
Yeah, no, there's certainly a time and place to call names. I mean, Jesus did it. Elijah did it. Many people in Scripture did it. When you deal with fools and foolishness of the world, like, you call it out. And in American culture, pastors are always told you have to be nice. You just don't say anything. You don't ruffle any feathers. You just go along to get along. Well, that's how we got to this place. That's why we have a culture where literally you have people saying to little boys they can be little girls, and little girls they can be little boys. It's absolutely foolishness. And so there is certainly a time and a place to call out the foolishness of people's ideas and their actions. And so, and I know, like, to a lot of people, they think, oh my gosh, pastors need to be just really, really nice. And I'm a shepherd. Shepherds protect their sheep from the wolves. Like, they know how to defend. Shepherds were rough and tumble guys. They weren't pushovers. They knew how to go to war to protect the people that they loved and the values of their community. So that's what pastors should do. So I know it kind of, ticks off the left when I call out their foolishness, but really think about it. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if we were saying, hey, like little boys, you can be little girls, and little girls, you can be little boys. Everybody in America would have said that's foolish. Like it was called a mental disorder. And yet now we're being told we have to affirm it, we have to celebrate it, or else we're somehow bigoted, which is absolutely asinine. I'm not going to go along with that. I'm going to tell people the truth because I love them enough to tell them the truth. We don't affirm someone who's anorexic by giving her liposuction and saying, here, take some diet pills. No, we say we love you enough to tell you the truth, and we're going to help you in this mental disorder. So how have we gotten to the place where this nonsense has been allowed to flourish in our community? It's because the silent majority stayed silent. And so as a pastor, there's certainly a time and a place to speak up and call it out for what it is.
All right. So I can see, and I'm not letting Jocelyn off the hook either, because, hey, your side of the fence is throwing rocks over there just as hard as anybody else. So, this is like complaining about a complainer, type of thing. How do you do that?
A pastor or a candidate or an elected official, anyone in the public that wants to engage with public discourse, frankly, simply should not be a bully. And this exchange of communication and ideas should never resort to bullying or unbecoming behavior. But it's very important for an appointed official, an elected official, even a candidate who wants to serve the public. You have decided to enter the arena. So you need to have a thick skin and do your work and listen to the public and take some hard knocks. And your job is to bring the temperature down, not fire it up. And that is good public discourse. And that's how we learn from one another.
All right, I'm going to let Lucy go next because I know when Lucy has a comment, and she has one.
Well, let's address what we're supposed to talk about, right? Which is manners on social media. Jocelyn brought up bullying. I can't think of anything more in the spirit of ill manners and bullying than the CIA's extension of the Mockingbird program and the collusion with Twitter and other social media properties such as Facebook to have a direct line to censorship. If you want to talk about bullying, the ultimate bullying is not being able to stand up to the bully and say no. And what did we see? We saw Elon Musk fire 80 to 90%. We have the documents, we have the receipts coming out. It's all being brought to light to demonstrate factually that Democrats and others, I'm not just going to pick on Democrats. It's really more about fascism and corporate fascism and what I call the corporatocracy. Collusion to silence voices. Because if you can make somebody feel like they're alone, as soon as somebody stands up and says, no, we're not going to let children make foolish, life-changing decisions, such as getting a double mastectomy or having their penis and their balls amputated, their testes amputated. Like, this is not a good idea. These kids can't decide their own bedtime. They're not old enough to buy cigarettes. They're not old enough to buy a gun. They're not old enough to enlist in the military. But somehow we're going to make those children do that. The reason is the corporatocracy. This is a growth area in medicine where we create lifelong medical patients who will be thousands of dollars a month just in pills. And the feminization of the male face is $75,000 in cosmetic surgery. We are literally creating money signs. These are money signs. And so let's talk about the real bullying, which is the silencing of voices. We don't even get the chance to speak up.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how this has got to do with the bullying on social media. I see where it was going.
Yeah, the ultimate.
If you're a new viewer here, I sometimes have to remind Lucy of a question for our panel. This is a free for all. A free discussion, not a free for all. Well, it's
who here thinks that? And let me just ask you this question: who here would positively say that it is a good thing that governments and corporations are in collusion with each other to keep Americans from opening up their mouths and expressing their opinion? So that's the question. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's acceptable that corporations and the government, our elected officials, colluded to silence
It's all
people?
propaganda. It's all propaganda. That's what got us in the problems in the 30s and the 20s and forever. It's propaganda. Brad, I know you wanted to ask questions tonight. I know that was one of your requests on the show. So you can ask a question. Let's ask a question about social media and, and that.
Well, because going back to the original post with Micah when he called out Michelle, there was another video from May 2nd that said that Micah filmed in his car as he's driving, talking about the Hamilton East Library Board, and he says, I'm one of 4 conservatives. There's 3 leftists on the board. So the conservatives are basically kind of coming in and saying, listen, we don't want porn to fall in the hands of kids and teens. Like, that sounds like you're saying your fellow board members want porn in the hands of kids.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes,
okay.
They do. They voted that way, so they do.
That is.
Can you define pornography though, Micah? Can you define it?
So this right here, I don't know if you can see it, but it actually literally says, here's a heads up, pornography, a performance. It's a performance. Okay, so literally, this is the book that we got removed, and it says this is pornography.
No, this was the policy before you joined the board. I know you really
that's pornogaphy right there. It was in the teen section. Jocelyn, are you defending that book being in the teen section?
Micah, I can't have you spout off lies. That is not true.
Okay, how it was
defined pornography?
It was in the teen section, correct? It was in the teen section.
It is not in the teen section.
It was. Was it?
It's a sex ed book, not pornography.
It says pornography. It literally says right here, pornography is a performance. Pornography is a performance. And then you come over here, and it actually talks about how to find it on YouTube. And you can go online, and you can look it up and talk to strangers about sex and kinks and fantasies. That's real estate.
Micah, so is that your definition of pornography? That it's a
the word pornography?
No,
yeah.
Not the picture. That's Micah's definition of pornography. I think that's his opinion of that. And now I'm going to get banned on the YouTube because of this.
This is what the author says of this book right here that was in the teen section. She's calling it out as pornography, and I'm saying I don't think it should be in the teen section. But it sounds like Brad and Jocelyn think it should be in the teen section.
No, I'm asking you to define pornography.
You can't lie like that.
Was it in the teen section or not, Jocelyn?
Not in the teen section.
Was it?
No.
Was it in the teen section?
Before you.
So it only got taken out because you got
boom. Thank you. Right there. Right there.
The policy worked. It was
no, it didn't. No, it didn't, because it wasn't taken out because of the policy. It was moved on a technicality because parents were upset, and even the library wouldn't say that content is inappropriate for the teens. That's why we had to put this policy in place, because even the library thinks this is okay in the teen section. And so the board had to get involved, and we had to put a policy in place that says this is not okay in the teen section.
We need to start looking at the 1,300 books that were moved and put that one away. And I don't think it's appropriate for you to show it on this. How is that?
I don't either. I'm going to agree with her. Don't show it again.
It's not appropriate to show it on here, but we can put it in the teen section. Okay.
It's not in
right.
John, can you answer what is pornography? Or can you ask Micah to answer what pornography is?
We already gave the definition.
Yeah, Lucy gave
the fact that we know it when we that's your guys' opinion of it, though.
Oh,
you guys
gotcha.
have.
So
no,
we just got to go along to get along. So you
hey,
find pornography.
I'm going to mute everybody in a second. This is my sticking show. I get accused of losing control because I get so enamored with the conversation. You all are really smart people.
John, I just want to add, our citizens in Fishers, taxpayers, deserve serious conversations about what's happening to our public library. This is not serious. This isn't true. And this is over amplified. And when we can get, and I'm getting so disappointed because our citizens, our community deserves a lot better than this.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question.
There are citizens that have literally said they want this stuff removed too. So what about those citizens, Josh?
Have you asked them to file the request for reconsideration, Micah?
They have. This one actually, there was a
don't show it again. Don't show it again.
There was a filing on this one, and it didn't get moved. It didn't get moved. They said nope, we're going to put it back in there.
It has been moved.
Yeah, but it was on a technicality, and the request for reconsideration didn't work. And so we're saying that's got to change. And I don't understand why Brad and Jocelyn are so enamored with keeping this kind of stuff in the kids section. Like, it just is common sense.
Micah, the kids section is different than the teen section too.
Okay, the teen section, they're all children. They're all children, Brad. If you're under 18, you're a child.
No.
Yeah, but the content is different.
Okay, but if you're under 18, you're still a child. Do you not agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Legally, you're not an adult.
Thank you.
Hey, wait a second.
Is oral
Hold on,
sex
hold on,
being
hold on. Everybody, hold on.
depicted
How in the
appropriate
world
for
do we
a
get back on the library board thing again? We already did that segment. Now I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing and everything else is terrible.
But when I say that our community is not aligned with you, that is really because we need to be speaking with each other and listening to one another. And these lies and this, it's spun out and it feels very disingenuous. If you were really interested in keeping children safe, you would listen to the public who want the same thing and listen to what they say. Because if you can't speak to this subject using facts and using proper vocabulary, you're not really caring about having.
I love how Democrats try to go high and mighty. Oh, it's for the children. It's for the children. We don't want them to see the oral sex until they hit the young adult section. But then it's perfectly okay to groom them. It's perfectly okay to say to a 14-year-old, "Hey, look at this guy straddled with this other guy." But it's pornography as a performance. Why in the world do you continue to advocate for children to have access to this inappropriate material? I'm offended that I'm a taxpayer to begin with. You shouldn't be stealing my money in the first place. Taxation is theft. But secondarily, if you're going to steal my money, don't insult me further by using it to groom children. That is immoral and ridiculous.
I just want to note here that Lucy is a libertarian, so don't think this is a Republican attacking you. This is a libertarian stance.
Yeah, and I'm an anarchist libertarian, but anarchy does not mean chaos. Anarchy means without rulers. Right now, Jocelyn, you're trying to be the ruler in control of what my children see at a public library. So first you're stealing money, and then you're going to make sure that my children have access to
all right, Lucy, let her talk. You've made a point. I want to let our guest talk.
Pardon me.
She's another panelist.
You are in control of what your children see and what they have access to. The library's job is to have materials accessible to the public. It is okay if you and I don't agree on what's appropriate, but it is not okay for our public library board to make those definitions in such a sweeping way that it decimates a teen zone reading section. That is inappropriate.
We elect people into the public library, onto the board, who reflect our community values. And the fact that we have 4
elected
conservatives
officials.
and 3 leftists,
They're appointed
by elected officials.
Okay, I want to ask the library guy, since we're back on the daggone library again, I'm going to ask Brad a question. Have you noticed a higher volume of teenagers and youth coming into the library because of this? Or has it just been the same? Is it a lot of parents coming into the library? I mean, what kind of volume have you noticed?
We don't have this issue in Alexandria.
Okay,
we've never gotten. We have not gotten recently any kind of book challenges or anything like that. We have a great relationship with the school. We have a great relationship with the town. I think a lot more of it is parents. At least when I go to the Hamilton East meetings, it seems like more adults are speaking. There are teens there, and the majority of the teens are angry that their books are moved.
I got you. So after this show, you'll have more challenges, I'm sure.
I'm positive. Yeah.
It's like, hey, bring it. Micah, could you answer that question about the amount of the volume of youth talking to your librarians? Is it something that they're just flooding into their library now to see what's being moved, or is it just pretty much, the standard, crowds, the usual?
I think it's been standard from what I've heard. I'm not the librarian who's there every day, but from what we've seen and what we've been told, it's been standard. It hasn't decreased or increased.
Okay, that's right. Well, hopefully out of this, that we'll get teens to read more books and the right books that their parents want them to write. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, and I know that I asked Jocelyn about the tinfoil hat. She says no, anybody that's in office or running for office. Mike, I'll give you that same option about the conspiracy theory, because it just might be me and Lucy tonight. Brad, you're welcome to stay for the tinfoil hat, but this is where we try to keep things light. And it's been a good discussion. I think we might have chipped away at the iceberg a little bit there. I think that hopefully a library board member may take a little more mercy and softer approach to things. And maybe someone on the other side may say, hey, I'm going to give them a little grace and mercy and So maybe we can get something figured out here where we don't have people arrested at the meeting. It's like, and which we didn't even cover that part, but it's like,
well,
that
you don't want to be arrested. If you don't want to be arrested at the meeting, do what the police officer tells you to do the first time.
That's sort of what I was thinking, but that's some others don't have that same opinion.
You don't think Laura was a little quick on the draw on that one?
The public library board's job is to bring the temperature down, not fire it up.
Yeah, and so when we asked the guy to leave, when the president asked the guy to leave so that we could keep the temperature down and let the public continue to speak, he refused to do that. The officer asked him to leave. He got arrested because he wouldn't go.
Enforcement involvement should be the last resort, not the
exactly.
Did the temperature cool down when the guy left? Were you able to carry business on?
No, by that point, he had disrupted the whole meeting. So
it was up to the president, and she just adjourned the meeting without proper notice or a second.
Yeah, Michael, was that the one that changed to 3 p.m.?
Yes.
That was the one that changed to 3 p.m.
Why did it change?
I mean, I don't know. The
president said was to limit disruptions. That means make it inaccessible to the public.
Is it? Hey, Brad, are we not allowed? So you're telling me we can't change library board meetings now? Is it like times? Are we not allowed to do that?
No, I'm just saying that Laura actually even said she wanted it changed to lessen disruptions, which sounds like she wants to limit the public actually coming to the
public meeting. We're still talking about accessibility.
Okay,
so
people could come.
So, Micah, when's the next library board so we could get everybody in there and get a few more people arrested?
It's the fourth Thursday. It's the fourth Thursday of the month. And if you don't want to be arrested, just do what the police officers tell you to do and keep it civil. I want to hear everybody's comments. I don't care if you disagree or agree with me. I want to hear them all. But when you start like slamming books down, the guy slammed the microphone and almost broke our microphone on the podium. And he was being disruptive. And so Laura asked him to leave. He wouldn't leave. The police came up and said, "Sir, would you please leave?" He wouldn't leave. Okay.
Was his comments germane to the meeting? I don't.
Were his comments germane to the meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think his comments were germane. It was his actions that.
Okay.
Like
I said, I'm just the host here. I didn't get a chance to see it. I saw a little snippet of a video of the guy talking with the police. The next thing I know, they're having him do push-ups on the ground in handcuffs. It was terrible.
John, I need to adjourn, but I will say I really appreciate this conversation. This is serious business. And Fishers, engaging law enforcement in a public meeting is all serious business. So thank you for tackling it, and thank you for inviting me to the conversation.
Thanks for coming on, because I did challenge people on Twitter to say, "Hey, put your money where your mouth is," and you are the two brave souls. Brad and yourself are the two brave souls that came on here. I think you did a wonderful job.
I will say it. Let me give Jocelyn and Brad credit. Like, I haven't seen a lot of Democrats willing to come on and enter the lines. And so to both of you, I give you a lot of props there. So thanks for being willing.
You both did a great job.
Yeah.
Democrats won't come on here.
This is where we kiss and make up after we done beat you about the head and shoulders.
All right. On that note, good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you later. And Brad, we thank you for coming on too. And I'd like to get Brad on our panel on a normal basis. So if you guys want to see Brad again, put some stuff in the comments there and send him a message, a nice message. Don't be threatening him, saying, if you don't come on the show, we're going to tar and feather you. A nice message, something, send him a Hallmark card or something. Say, hey, please come on as a panelist.
Can I say one more thing though about?
Oh yeah. Go right on ahead.
Just the way that we speak online too, it can really even endanger staff at the library. It can endanger. I don't know why you're laughing about endangering staff, Micah.
I thought. Well, keep going. I thought you didn't care that it was the library's job to keep people safe. So now you're saying we do need to keep people safe at the library. So I'm just confused. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think he's trying to say we need to keep the librarians safe, and I think I see where he's going. I'm not going to speak for him, but I think what I'm saying here is that the temperatures are so high here. It just takes one nut job to do something silly.
If I could say that, it's not those on the right. Whenever people on the right are testifying or they're coming to speak, they're staying calm. They're being civil. It's not my side. It's not the Lucys of the world coming out screaming bloody murder. My church has been harassed by people on the left who have come to these library board meetings screaming. We have felt threatened outside of the library because of what people have been doing and saying within the library board meetings, and they come and follow us. They try to cancel us. They've even harassed us at our church. So, but it's not Republicans. It's not conservatives. It's people on the left, Brad. It's your people. So if you're concerned with safety, then you got to tell your people, hey, cool it. Like, we can have these discussions, but there's no need to start throwing, hurling all these insults.
No, I think the temperature needs to go down on both sides. I'm just saying that you have a role in a position of power. You had a gentleman on your podcast, and like a week later, he reported on the 3 board members are pro porn on his newspaper. He outed the youth director at your library. And I don't know how you see that happening, and you can't reflect on if you should say things differently.
Okay, so first of all, I mean, what did he do that was endangering? I mean, he's highlighting what these board members did. They voted to block this policy that would keep pornography out of the children's section and teen section. Like, so what? I mean, he didn't. I mean, he wasn't lying.
But again, you're using the word pornography.
That's what it is.
It isn't.
That's what it says right here. It literally says it's pornography.
In the state when they tried to pass the law this year.
We'll reason that sexually explicit content. How about that? Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine, but it still doesn't meet all the thresholds. Like the third one, as long as it has literary value, which really libraries can argue. So
50 Shades of
Yeah,
Grey.
I only read Playboy for the articles. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey is not like, we have erotic, novels and paperbacks and stuff in the adult section.
Right. And you would say that shouldn't be in the kids section, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. I agree with you. And that's all we're saying is, like, let's make sure that there's sexually explicit material. Like, that's not in the kids section. Let's make sure it just stays in the adult section. I don't understand why this is such a big deal.
But the definition, or like, I think everybody's viewpoints of sexually explicit material is very different.
So then my kids have to conform to your standards of sexually explicit materials. What you're telling me?
No, I'm saying that you can explain to your kids that other people have different values than you guys do.
But what happens if
the library represents everybody?
But what happens if they see it? What happens if my 6-year-old is running through the children's section, picks up something that does have sexually explicit content in it? He sees it. To what John said, you can't unsee that. So am I supposed to just say, all right, son, you weren't supposed to see that, now forget about it? Or, like, why can't we just take that and put it in the adult section where I know my son is not going to be? And so it's still there. Why does he have to conform to your standards in the kids section? What? Like,
if it's important,
in that scenario, though, like, if your 6-year-old is going to be, monitoring or like kind of rounding the kids section on his own, can't he also run off into the adult section and see things?
I can keep an eye on what section of the library he's in. When he's at the Noblesville Library, he's downstairs in the kids section. I know he's in the section. I don't always get to follow him from book to book to see what he's picking up. But I know where he's at. If he's upstairs in the adult section, I'm not going to let him do that. I'm going to say, get back down here, stay down here. So all I'm saying is, why does he have to conform to your standards? Why can't we just compromise and say, hey, sexually explicit material, let's just move it up to the adult section. It's still available for the moms and dads, for the Brads of the world who want their kids to have that. You can have it. We're not saying you can't. It's just, why do we have to conform to your standards? And instead of finding a compromise that just says, let's put that in a different section, so we're all happy.
We have these little free libraries, these little things everywhere, Brad. If it is so important to you that children have access to sexually explicit material, put a little red box outside your door, label it, here, children, here's all the goodies, sugar treats inside, and you groom the children on your own with your own money. Don't use mine.
I'm going to put my blue shirt on and help Brad, because you're picking on him. He's not, I don't think he's for this porn stuff. I think he's a librarian that's trying to maybe bridge the gap. I think he's a guy that's trying to put a little glue on this divide. I'm not going to say he's very effective with it, but I see his heart in this. I think he wants to patch some things up here, but honestly, you can't have both. You can't have total freedom and let kids, into that type of a situation. So, and I think honestly, this goes with the parents. If a parents wants your kid to do certain things, then they're going to be a lot different than yours. I mean, we had kids in our neighborhood that their parents, they'd smoke pot and drank and they didn't care. My parents didn't want me around those kids, but that's just the world.
But it wasn't a public building that's paid for by all of our tax dollars. That's
no, it was David Lynn Drive, it was that old Sandlot. But okay, so this has been great. I hope Mike, you're going to stick around for conspiracy theory. All right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How about you, Brad? If you're going to,
I'll stick. Yeah.
All right. And Lucy, I know yours conspiracy fact. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I think I might have played it. You've already seen it, Brad, so you won't be shocked by my goofiness on this part. But here we go. We're going to play this. If you don't have a tinfoil hat, that's okay. Just have a conspiracy. You can make it up on the fly like I do every week. So here you go. Hey, y'all. It's time for the conspiracy theory. So you better get your tinfoil hat out and let's see what's going on this week. All right. Mine is going to be a conspiracy theory about Mexico. That's why I'm wearing the hats, both hats here. And I don't really have one about Mexico, but I will have by the time you all get done. So as usual, we're going to start with Lucy's conspiracy fact.
Well, it is conspiracy fact that oftentimes institutions such as libraries are founded and funded with an agenda in mind. For example, in Salem, Indiana, where I'm from, we have, I believe it's the Rockefeller Library, actually. And so the Rockefellers funded that library. They made sure that the things that were going to entrench them, to make them look good to the community, and to further their ideals, and their values are actually in that library. Isn't that the point behind having a presidential library? Isn't that the point behind very wealthy people, putting wings on buildings on Harvard and Princeton so that they have a little bit of a nudge on what happens? And my dear friend, Mr. Kill Gates, he showed himself with a stack of books expressing his love for reading, and furthermore, admitted and shared with the world that his favorite book was right on top, and that was, How to Lie with Statistics. So I just like to leave it there that often institutions are created for the sole purpose of nudging society in a specific direction. And let's not forget that when people are grooming children, when somebody is trying to groom your child, they're also grooming you. They're also trying to get you to believe in a certain way that will give them more access to your children. And this is what most parents miss when they later say, their child has a horrific experience. I'm not making light of this. Their child is harmed or sexually abused or assaulted by someone. It's often a family friend. And the parents later say, I can't believe it was this person. They were great. They were always, with our family, acting great. That's because they were grooming you, the parents. So parents, be on guard for those who are grooming you and your attitudes in order to get to your children. That's the real danger.
All right. Conspiracy fact, as usual. And I do think that that's a little bit, and I do think that's why we're where we are, because I believe COVID may have exposed all this, but that's just a conspiracy theory. So Brad, since you're sort of the new kid on the block, you get to go next if you got a conspiracy theory, a fact, or you could even have a beauty tip like Tiffany. We don't care. It's just all your time.
No, I heard a conspiracy rumor thing that one of the Hamilton East board members was going to get replaced, Andre Mishka. We can't figure out why he would be replaced because he didn't actually violate any of the things, but I think a lot of people are kind of up in arms about that because it will tilt balances of the Hamilton East board. So I've heard that pretty recently. I think the board meeting is like August 30th at 7 a.m., which just screams, accessibility to the public.
So, and that's the trustees that meet that, right? I mean, this is just a conspiracy, but I heard that it's the trustees that are gathering together to discuss this. So, but it's just a conspiracy, right? So, Mike, you're next. You could either deny or confirm any of that conspiracy that you'd like, or you could just talk about Bigfoot like Tiffany does. I don't know.
I'm going to go the MSNBC route and say that Brad's just a conspiracy theorist and it's never going to come true. So, but there we go. So, and it's not the board of trustees. I think Andre is appointed by the elected officials, I think, on the Hamilton Southeast School Board. So,
Yeah.
so that's where. So I think he's talking. That's what you're saying is the
That's,
7
yeah,
o'clock
the Hamilton, yeah, the Hamilton schools are
but-
having that meeting. Yeah.
So my conspiracy theory is this: that Lucy Benton is really the secret CIA director of the United States. I think she's playing it off pretty well, that she really doesn't like overreaching, tyrannical government, but I think she might be in on it. And she's really the one spying on Americans using the big corporate conspiracy, government conspiracy.
And she's using tax money to do it because she always taxation stuff. My conspiracy.
Secrets.
This is a side conspiracy because I got another one that's dealing with Mexico. But Lucy's going to write a romance novel that's going to be so juicy that it'll be banned from the teen section. I mean, that you heard it here first. So Micah, get ready to and Brad up in Alexander Library.
We don't ban books,
man.
We don't ban books. So
she's
it couldn't get banned.
You're going to ban this one. I mean, this one's going to be not even. It's going to be terrible. The parents will be outside boycotting the library and all that. No, but my conspiracy theory is that the Mexican government, the American government, Panama, Costa Rica, and there's another country in there. They're all conspiring to move the U.S. border all the way down to the Panama Canal. Now, this is going to, alleviate a lot of problems because, that Rio Grande, you got a governor down there that's put some barbed wires and things in there, but it sure is hard to swim the Panama Canal. So they're really trying to kill off two birds with one stone, a wall that people can't get over. And we take all that. Just think of the vacationing we can have in Casablanca. What's that? You got Cancun. You got what's the other one? Cabo.
Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, have you been to that one, Micah? You been to Cabo?
Cabo, no. I've been to Puerto Vallarta though.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. That's Pacific Coast, isn't it? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Cancun once, and that was fun. We had Victoria beer and avocados and watched the Mexican sunset. It was very good. So, that's my conspiracy. I don't know if if you've heard about it, but that's what it is. So this is what I think.
Can you repeat all that for me? I just I need to hear it a second time to see if it really sets in as a conspiracy. So
the conspiracy theory, it's okay. You got Costa Rica.
I'm kidding.
Panama. All right, yeah, you're out of the country. I'm voting with the people from friggin'. And the chat tonight was interesting because you could definitely tell you have some fans, Micah.
There's a lot of mean people.
Tiffany.
There's a lot of mean people in the chat. I mean, I'm just like, man, I thought we were supposed to be nice to everybody and accepting, intolerant. It was a lot of really intolerant comments. I don't. I'm gonna go find my safe space.
My thing is like we're one giant big family. If you're in a family with other kids or what other siblings or whatever, we'll call each other names and beat each other up. But somebody comes against the family, then you got a problem. So I think that we have two big families right now. We have a right and a left, and they're protecting their own. But it was. But we had good. I predicted we'd have double our live viewers, and we did. So I would say Brad and Jocelyn lived up to their billing, and they brought the people. Am I pausing real bad right now? Okay, good. That's on my side. It is. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for coming on, Brad. Consider that offer of being a Democrat on here. I think you did a wonderful job. Micah, you were great as always. And Lucy, thanks for stopping at the gas station and making your feed better. So thanks, everybody. And if you're a new viewer, hey, come back next week. We have Charles Bookwalter coming on. If you thought, I call him the Amish guy running for Congress. Because he's got a hat. I mean, you'll just have to tune in and get it. No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody say peace out and let me hit this ending and stick around after this, guys. And we'll clear this thing out.
Yeah.